So y'all, I watched Zack Snyder's Justice League on HBO Max, which that movie's runtime is 4 hours long. And it actually took me 8 hours to watch the whole thing because I was multitasking while I was working. Hey guys, welcome to my channel, Candy and Popcorn. I'm Candice James, and here we talk all things TV and movies. While you're here, go ahead, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and let's get started on today's content. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League that recently came out on HBO Max. Now, this version will not have any spoilers, but if you'd like to have a more in-depth conversation because you've already watched the film and you don't mind spoilers, please check out this video that I've uploaded. This does have spoilers, but it's a more in-depth conversation. It's in one of the corners. I don't know where it is. Usually I figured it out during editing, but filming, I don't know. So what the hell is Zack Snyder's Justice League, and how is it different than the Justice League movie that came out in 2017? Well, if you're wondering, other than a difference of 2 hours in runtime, the 2017 version was 2 hours long versus the Zack Snyder film that just came out is actually 4 hours and 2 minutes long. So other than the difference in time, Zack Snyder's version is just better. So this version, the Zack Snyder Justice League movie, is actually a re-release of the film that came out in 2017, Justice League. Now that film did flop. This version is Zack Snyder's version of the film without any external input. So this is just the director's cut of the film, and like I said, I think it's much better than what came out 4 years ago. So to give you some backstory, what happened is Zack Snyder was the original director of the Justice League film, but in May of 2017, he actually left the film while it was in post-production, and this is due to the death of his daughter. So after Zack Snyder's departure, another director, Joss Whedon, came and took over the production, and they refilmed and rewrote a lot of the film. Between the new director and the Warner Brothers studio, they actually rewrote a significant portion of the film, and so what you see today is this 4-hour version is significantly different than the 2017 film that was 2 hours that came out 4 years ago. So when I say that the 2017 Justice League film bombed, I mean bombed. And let me quote you some numbers. So the 2017 film had a budget of $300 million, and what they made worldwide in the box office was $657 million. So technically this film was profitable. If you look at it that way, this film was definitely profitable. However, what you find is when you compare it to other films, it did not make quite as much money as what they expected. So for example, let's take a look at in comparison to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU. So let's take a look at Avengers Infinity War, which came out in 2018, just 1 year after this film. Avengers Infinity War had a budget of $312 million, but they grossed $2 billion. That's billion worldwide. So maybe you might want to say the 2018 Avengers film was well into the MCU universe, whereas this is the first Justice League film within the DC universe. And so maybe you want to compare it to the 2012 Avengers movie. They had a budget of $220 million, but they still grossed $1.5 billion. So again, if you're looking at where the MCU movies were versus where this Justice League movie was in the DC world, they're not actually equal. They're spending about the same amount of money, but they're not grossing. The Justice League movie is not grossing as much as MCU was grossing at the same time. And then maybe you might want to say, well, let's not compare it to MCU. Let's actually compare it to another film within the DC universe. So when you take a look at Wonder Woman, which came out in the same year, came out in 2017, Wonder Woman had a budget half that of the Justice League movie. Again, Justice League was $300 million, Wonder Woman was $150 million. And even with less budget, with half of the budget, Wonder Woman still grossed $822 million worldwide. So again, half of the budget, but more money than the Justice League movie. And so you can just see that this movie did not do well. And then also, when taking a look at how the critics viewed the Justice League movie, the critics viewed it 40% on Rotten Tomatoes versus 71% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So all in, whether you take it from a numerical standpoint, whether you take it from a critic standpoint, this movie did not do well in 2017 when it came out. So tell me in the comments, did you actually like the 2017 Justice League movie? And if you did, go a step further and tell me whether or not you're a Marvel fan. Because I suspect if you kind of like the 2017 movie, you probably weren't big in MCU. But I want to figure that out. Find me in the comments and let me know. So before I jump into the film, I just want to caveat that I am not a DC or MCU or any type of comic book savant, right? I have not read every single comic book and every single version that there is out there within DC or MCU. I am simply someone who is an enthusiast. I am a fan. I love watching both the DC and the MCU movies, and I have things to say about them. And so I want to know what you guys have to say. I'm going to have a bunch of questions throughout this just to see if maybe I'm on the same page, maybe I'm not, who knows? But that being said, I'm just someone who likes numbers. So don't at me if you disagree with something that I have to say. If you disagree with me, I am happy to engage in conversation, but I will clap back in the comments. Don't get it twisted. So in researching for this video, I did watch the 2017 Justice League movie a couple years ago, and I watched the Zack Snyder version today, the day that I'm actually recording this. I don't feel that I need to rewatch the 2017 version because I think once is enough. So why do I think that the Zack Snyder Justice League version is better than the 2017 version? So one, I don't have box office numbers just because that information is unavailable. The Zack Snyder version was not released in theaters, it was released in HBO Max. So there's a bit of an apples and oranges if we're gonna compare numbers of how they gross. However, we can look at Rotten Tomatoes, and the critics rated this 73% and the audience rated it 92%. And again, to reference the 2017 movie, on Rotten Tomatoes, the critics rated this 40%, whereas the audience rated it 71%. So whether taking a look at either the critics or the audience score, we see that the Zack Snyder Justice League version definitely rates higher on Rotten Tomatoes. Furthermore, the Zack Snyder Justice League version is just better. So in touching on the feeling that the 2017 film felt very rushed, so again, it's 2 hours, but if you take a look as to where MCU was by the time they had released the first Avengers movie, we'd already had Iron Man 1 and 2, we'd already had The Incredible Hulk, and we'd already had Captain America, the First Avenger, and Thor. So we'd already had 6 movies in the MCU universe. That means we'd gotten a chance to learn who all of the characters were, and we were fully briefed as to their backstories, as to, how they fit in. We as the audience already knew these characters and had bonded with them. However, when you're looking at this Justice League movie, yes, we've had a Batman movie, we've had a Wonder Woman movie, and we've also had a Superman movie. But there were other characters in this film, in the 2017 film, and in the Zack Snyder film that we hadn't been really introduced to as of yet. And so it felt like all of the actors in the 2017 2-hour film, they were all vying for time. They were trying to build in the backstory of these lesser characters, but then, Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, the ones that we actually know, they were also vying for time because they're the star power. And so it felt just really rushed and jumbled, and not a full cohesive story. So speaking of backstories of the lesser characters, I'm actually going to talk about Cyborg next. But before that, I actually want to know what you guys thought about the 2017 version of Cyborg. Did you actually enjoy his story? Did you like his backstory? Pause me if you have to, but before I actually get into it, I want to know what you guys think before I give my thoughts. Pause me and go to the comments and let me know what you think. So a bit of background on Ray Fisher, who played Cyborg in this film. He actually was in a bit of hot water with not only the studios, but with the replacement director, Joss Whedon. Now, in July 1st, 2017, Ray Fisher actually tweeted, Joss Whedon's on-set treatment of the cast and crew of Justice League was gross, abusive, unprofessional, and completely unacceptable. He was enabled in many ways by by Jeff Johns and John Berg. Accountability over entertainment. So this led to Warner Media actually making an investigation into these claims. Now, you can say that Warner Media probably botched this investigation and they were biased towards themselves, towards the studio, and so they did a lot of bashing of Ray Fisher, but a lot of the cast members actually came out in support, including Jason Momoa, who plays Aquaman, and Gal Gadot, who plays Wonder Woman. They were supportive of Ray Fisher speaking out. They'd even stated in certain interviews that they've had their own altercations with the director, Joss Whedon. And this was probably why in the 2017 version of the film, Cyborg's character was quite lacking in his backstory, in his overall screen time. He just didn't really seem to be a full member of the Justice League. Overall, Zack Snyder's Justice League version just makes more sense. Again, that 4-hour runtime really makes a big difference. I remember when I watched the 2017 version of the film, I was breaking my back falling into plot holes. I've fallen and I can't get up. Like, there were just plot holes everywhere. The storyline just didn't make sense. It really felt like they took the easy way out in this film. So Zack Snyder's version really takes its time, and when I say take its time, I'm serious. It's 4 hours, y'all. This movie, just to give you an idea, this movie is longer than Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. It's longer than The Godfather Part 2. I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse. Ugh, cotton balls. And it's longer than Malcolm X. Oh. All three of those movies are about 200 minutes or about 3 hours and 30 minutes long. This movie is a 4-hour movie. Find me in the comments and actually let me know who your favorite superhero of this film is. For me, Wonder Woman, but I want to know what you guys think. So even though the Zack Snyder Justice League version is heads and tails above the 2017 version that came out, it still leaps and bounds behind the MCU movies. So DC actually started very late and they are behind the curve in trying to do what Marvel took a decade to cultivate. And so I really think that before this movie came out, we should have had some individual hero movies in the DC world that came out before that. Besides the ones that we know of, like Wonder Woman, like Superman, like Batman, we should have at least had a Cyborg or a Flash movie before this one. There's no reason why we should have been introducing main characters in the Justice League film like this. And so I think that's probably, again, where the 2017 film went wrong. But even now, I definitely think that we should have been more intimately introduced to these characters before this film. And so I think this Justice League movie is probably a little bit too early. Overall, and I'd say that this has really less to do with the Zack Snyder version versus the 2017 version, but just overall, I think the casting was so wrong in this film. I just really do not connect with the actors they chose to play these characters. For example, we all know that Ben Affleck as Batman was the wrong choice, especially after Christian Bale as Batman. That man really paved the way for modern day Batman. And Ben Affleck, came in there and I don't know what he did. He was smoking something that day. He does have a drinking problem. It could have been that. Maybe that's what it was. He just wasn't on par on set because his version of Batman was just bad. And I also didn't like Jeremy Irons as Alfred. Now, Jeremy Irons is one of my favorite actors, but Jeremy Irons really is a leading man, and in this version of Alfred, he played this kind of like beta male, kind of doting, kind of awkward personality, and I don't see Jeremy Irons in that way, and I don't think that he conveyed that well on this screen. He just was not the greatest pick for Alfred. And also Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. I thought that was the worst pick of them all, probably even worse than Ben Affleck. Jesse Eisenberg tends to play the same goddamn roles over and over. It's always like a smart talking, like, I think I'm smarter than you, pretentious asshole role. And that's exactly what he brought to this Lex Luthor role, except there was a comedic portion to it. I don't know about y'all, but like, when I think of Lex Luthor, he's someone to be feared. I don't want to laugh at him. That's what the Joker's for, before he does something crazy. So like Jesse Eisenberg, I also just don't like his face. I don't like his face. That's it. I don't like his face. All right, guys, now that's it for today's content. I asked a bunch of questions throughout this video that I want to hear your answer on. And so please, guys, find me in the comments and let me know what you think. And while you're here, go ahead, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, because while I love doing this, I love even more having conversations with you and seeing what you think. And so I also want my page to grow. So like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I do release content every 1st and 15th of the month. I do release even more than that. I am committing to the 1st and 15th, but I absolutely have been releasing content weekly. I also told you guys that sometimes I will be on here in a t-shirt and no makeup because that's what I feel like.
I am happy to engage in conversation, but I will fight back in the comments. Don't get it twisted.
And that is what today I felt like. I did not feel like putting on any makeup today, so I'm recording without this. So guys, until next time, cheers.